Homer's Odyssey. You definitely know the story, right? It's this epic 10-year struggle of a hero trying to get home after the Trojan War, fighting off mythical monsters and, dealing with some seriously vengeful gods. But what if that legendary adventure, the one we've been told for something like 3,000 years, is actually just a cover story for a much deeper, hidden journey?
Well, for thousands of years, philosophers and mystics have argued exactly that. They believed the Odyssey wasn't just some ancient travelogue. To them, it was a detailed map of an inner journey, a kind of how-to guide for spiritual transformation.
All right, so the world of ancient Greece, a story for a shattered world. To really get why this hidden meaning was so important, we first have to understand the world the Odyssey came from. See, this wasn't a story written in a time of peace and prosperity, not at all. It was forged in the aftermath of a total catastrophe.
The poem itself was composed around 800 BCE, but it's looking back to a heroic age that ended right around the time of the Trojan War. And immediately after that war, this mysterious event we now call the Bronze Age collapse happened. And when I say collapse, I mean it. Entire civilizations just vanished. Literacy was lost. Greece plunged into a centuries-long dark age. So can you imagine living in a shattered world like that? A story about a long, brutal, but ultimately successful journey home? Man, that would have a power we can barely even fathom today.
Okay, a journey to the underworld, the heart of the initiation. Now, the absolute core of this hidden, spiritual reading is found in Book 11. This is when Odysseus travels to the land of the dead. And this isn't just another monster encounter, this is everything. It's the heart of his spiritual initiation.
And this brings us to a super important concept from the ancient mystery schools called cathabisus. It's a ritual descent into the underworld. The whole idea is that to be truly reborn and gain real wisdom, an initiate first had to symbolically die by confronting their own mortality head-on.
And Odysseus' journey? It fits this ritual framework perfectly. It's not a random adventure at all. It follows a very precise pattern. First, he has a guide, Circe, who gives him the exact instructions. Then, he performs the descent, making specific sacrifices to summon the spirits. After that, he receives the big revelation from the prophet Tiresias. And finally, armed with all this new knowledge, he returns to the world of the living. It's a classic, four-step initiation, right out of the playbook.
And the ultimate goal of this whole thing is revealed in a really strange prophecy from Tiresias. He tells Odysseus he'll only find peace when he's traveled so far inland that someone mistakes his oar, the very symbol of his life of struggle on the sea, for a simple farming tool. Think about that. In other words, the symbol of his entire past has to become meaningless before he can truly be home. Now for the text's second life, from epic poem to esoteric blueprint. And I want to be clear, this esoteric reading isn't some modern invention. For centuries, some of the greatest minds in Western philosophy saw the Odyssey not as just a simple epic, but as a profound spiritual blueprint. They saw two layers to the story. You have the exoteric, or outer journey. That's the adventure we all know. But then you have the esoteric, or inner journey, which is a symbolic map of the soul. In this reading, the monsters aren't actually out there. They are our own inner demons. Greed, lust, anger. Reaching home, Ithaca, isn't just about getting back to an island. It's about reaching a state of inner peace. And Circe turning men into pigs? Well, that's a pretty stark warning that giving in to our base desires can literally degrade the human spirit.
And this tradition of interpretation has a long, long legacy. The Neoplatonist philosophers saw Odysseus as the human soul, struggling to return to its divine origin. Later, Renaissance alchemists read it as a guide to spiritual transformation. And even today, depth psychologists interpret the journey as this profound exploration of the unconscious mind, a confrontation with the archetypes that live deep inside all of us.
So, let's talk about the modern Odyssey and why the journey still matters. Why does any of this still matter today? Because this ancient story tells us that the struggle to find our way in a chaotic world, to overcome our own worst impulses, and to finally get to a place of peace and self-knowledge, well, that's a timeless human quest. It really leaves us with a powerful question, doesn't it? The Odyssey is an incredible story of adventure, for sure, but it also suggests that the most heroic, most dangerous, and most rewarding journey any of us will ever take doesn't require a ship at all. So what if the greatest journeys are not across the sea, but the ones we take within ourselves?
This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.